paint type get up with the white faces and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
Okay, just check them out. You might like them.
Brian, I am so old. I don't like anything new.
In fairness, Ghost is kind of like, they feel old when I listen to them.
Sure, but it's like, these kids and their newfangled music,
Craig, I know.
They don't know what real music is.
Craig's going to take the next round off and just spend some time yelling at the clouds outside. Meanwhile, Aaron's going to cast Once Upon a Time for free.
The clouds deserve it.
I'm sure they did something terrible to you. No turn one play for Aaron besides that free cantrip. Drake Sasser, meanwhile, Birds of Paradise coming down.
When I grew up, I had to just listen to so much of like
static, nothing but static.
No, like Pearl Jam's off-key singing.
Wait, are you really trashing Pearl Jam right now? One of the unquestionably greatest bands of our generation.
I like how you put unquestionably in there, like no one could dislike Pearl Jam. It is not possible.
I feel strongly about this point.
Listen, they're a very iconic band.
Right.
I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but
Craig, this relationship is getting tense right now. Things are tense.
I just told you I listened to a ton of Pearl Jam in my day.
But you begrudgingly listened to them.
No, I was excited at the time.
Okay, not anymore though. You've grown past Pearl Jam.
I don't know. Now I found other bands that sing on key.
Okay.
It's like this wild concept.
Just raking Eddie Vedder over the coals right now. What if he's watching right now? How do you feel about yourself?
He's using just his millions and millions of dollars to wipe away his tears.
He's probably quite rich. Galraf's Messenger coming down for Aaron Barich. I doubt I'm pronouncing that card right, but I try my best. That's what I'm here for. Geralf's.
Maybe, is this like a GIF thing?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's a correct way to pronounce this name. I just have no idea.
No, but I'm saying, is it the difference between a hard G and a soft G? Like, could it be Giraffel's Messenger?
I think I'm just like using the vowel wrong. Like I'm improperly pronouncing the E in the name.
Geralf's.
Ooh, Geralf's. I like that one. Yeah, there you see Giralf's Messenger.
Giraffe M.
Geralf's also acceptable. Call it whatever you want. Magic cards are here for you. Meanwhile, it's going to be on a path to exile and completely out of the game.
Yeah, and if you're Aaron, I don't think you're upset by this.
No, mana's good for Aaron. I agree.
Every game we've seen her just use lots of mana.
A mana-hungry deck, to be sure. There's that Arkham's Astrolabe. It's going to find a Horizon Canopy for Drake. And just going to pass the turn back.
One of the things I worry about when I look at the Bant Snowblade deck is that actions per turn that you like to coin.
Right.
Where slow. This deck generally is only doing one thing a turn.
Karen might be a little flooded here. Not much action on her side. Of course, Drake not up to much either. Both players spinning their wheels a little bit here in the early game. Drake at least missing land drops, meaning once he finds those land drops, probably has some powerful stuff to do. I'm not sure what Aaron's hand consists of right now.
But even before this, Drake had, those 3 lands and a bird, which is plenty of mana sources to do almost anything in that deck.
You would assume so, yeah. Here's a big play. Recently unbanned Stoneforge Mystic. Gonna go ahead and get Sword of Feast and Famine. That's pretty good against Aaron's deck.
Pro black and pro green.
Turns out Golgari Yawgmoth does not like to see Sword of Feast and Famine across the battlefield. Noble Hierarch for Aaron. This draw has not developed. This will happen sometimes.
Yes, but I mean, one of the things I've enjoyed watching this Stinkers deck is that it has so many redundant cards that are similar.
It does, and it seems like Aaron is just a Eldritch Evolution or a Court of Calling or just a Yawgmoth away from really being in this game.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time would do a lot of digging.
Sure. Yeah, and you see another land discarded for Aaron. So that was certainly the issue here. And no end step play. Draws again. Anything doing yet?
Well, and one of the issues is...
All right, we're doing a little minusing. That's a promising start. Eldritch Evolution. Does it resolve? Does not. Spell Queller at the ready. Gonna gobble that one up.
And this is what I was going to say. Aaron knows that she's staring into the teeth of permission.
Yeah. Yeah, Spell Queller quite good against this deck.
We had mentioned that, you know, Drake had 4 mana available, lots of cards in hand, missed a few land drops.
Oh, but look at this. Good follow-up from Aaron. It's Court of Calling. And I believe that was for 4. Yeah, here's Yawgmoth.
Yep.
Here's how you get back into this game if you're Aaron. Now, of course, Drake has a lot working at this point. Sword of Feast and Famine at the ready on that Birds of Paradise. Here's 4 mana for a Jace. Oh, boy. That's a good way to close the door.
Yeah, I guess Jace is not unplayable, huh?
Drake says it's not. A lot of previously very powerful cards finding their last shot here in this Bant Snowblade deck. Stoneforge Mystic, Jace the Mind Sculptor. Cards which caused a lot of ire when they were unbanned. People were scared of these cards. Haven't quite lived up to the expectations.
Well, I was in that camp. Not that I thought that these cards would definitely be a problem. What are you doing? But it was more, we had a long stretch where Modern was in a good place. There were a lot of exciting decks.
Yes.
And it seemed like doing this could potentially be very costly without the upside.
Yeah, ultimately, I think these cards have been positive additions to Modern, but things went very far afield very quickly, for sure. I don't blame people for being trepidatious about these cards being re-released into the format. Here's a Strangleroot Geist from Aaron. That's going to go after that Jace.
It's a little bit of extra value here.
Was Drake supposed to move the sword around after that attack? A lot of mana available.
The answer is maybe. I think, in the context of this game, it's only a very small mistake.
Yep. And here's Yawgmoth. That's going to get gobbled up by the Spell Queller again. As I mentioned, Spell Queller with a lot of juicy targets against Aaron. I would not expect this to be a good matchup for Aaron Barich.
Sure, there's just enough out of the Bant Snowblade deck. I don't. So if the Urza Oko decks are an okay matchup, is this deck significantly different?
I think the white cards are really what breaks the camel's back. There's Stoneforge Mystic being able to get Sword of Feast and Famine. There's Spell Queller, which seems extremely, extremely powerful against Aaron. Of course, there's also Teferi, which can take away Aaron's ability to play this instant speed game. So I do think there are very meaningful white cards. And of course, Path to Exile. Just having a spot removal spell that actually exiles the card in question.
Sure.
Can be quite meaningful. So maybe were Yawgmoth to become a big part of the format, maybe that's the move Urza has to make, pick up some of these white cards. It has before. We've seen it. We've seen the Urza deck splashing Teferi, Spell Queller. No reason it can't go back in that direction. Especially if it's forced to find a new way of playing in a post-Oko world. But who knows what's going to happen there.
If you would like to sign up tonight, come on up to the stage and do so. Once again, we are taking sign-ups for both the Modern and Pioneer Classics tonight.
A couple of juicy ones in Drake's hand. It's Oko alongside Force of Negation.
Yeah, and there's still that Jace on the board, right?
Yeah. A lot of options available to Drake right now.
And with the sword having free reign, Drake can deploy all of the threats in his hand.
Of course.
And then still have the mana up during the opposing turn in order to control their spells.
Sounds good to me. So we're plussing onto our Spell Queller.
Sure. I like that he was sliding the card out of the sleeve. Come on, Drake. You've been in the feature match area before. You know we've got you.
Go ahead, pass the turn back to Aaron. Scoops him up. That is going to do it. Drake Sasser up a game against Aaron Barich. Bant Snowblade over Golgari Yawgmoth.
And if I'm Aaron, I think the way to get on top of this Bant Snowblade deck is to have like that turn 1 Mana Accelerant, and then turn 2 and 3, you kind of have free reign to cast whatever you want.
Right. Yeah, no real early counter magic from the Bant Snowblade deck. Well, why don't we take a look at what we're going to be working with in the sideboard. I think Aaron's going to have to improve quite a bit post-board to find a way forward here. But why don't we start over on Drake's side. There you see 3 Ashiok Dream Render, 2 Mystical Dispute, 2 Veil of Summer, 2 On Thin Ice, 2 Winds of Abandon.
Wow.
2 Dismember, 1 Disdainful Stroke, and finally 1 Vendilion Click. Can't believe that card is still seeing play from anyone. Feels like it's mostly invalidated by Brazen Borrower, but here it is.
It serves a different role.
They're so close. I mean, I get it. One is supposed to be disruptive of like a combo approach, but generally deal with your permanent, do some damage to you, and get both is very, very high value. Whatever, that's besides the point. What is Drake going to do in this particular match?
I am just surprised looking at this sideboard. He already has 4 Path to Exiles in his main deck, and he has 2 On Thin Ice and 2 Winds of Abandon out of the sideboard. That's just like
so much removal.
Yeah, wildly redundant to me. I'm surprised that there's that much of it.
He can even go to Dismember as well. I mean, so many options for spot removal.
To me, it's just like, which one of these is the best? And you run with that one, but he just wanted everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron's deck and the success it has seen thus far today is somewhat predicated on the absence of spot removal from the format. It's just not something you're generally doing right now.
The absence of exiling spot removal at that, yeah.
Correct. But you see Drake loaded up on it. On Thin Ice, Winds of Abandon. Really a lot of good options for Drake over in the sideboard. Meanwhile, over on Aaron's side, we are looking at 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Veil of Summer, 2 Damping Sphere, an Abrupt Decay, an Assassin's Trophy, Thrashing Brontodon, Plague Engineer, Obstinate Baloth, Phyrexian Revoker, Reclamation Sade, Yixlid Jailer, and finally a Kitchen Finks. Craig, what do you want to do on Aaron's side?
So I like the Thoughtseizes. I think the early discard is just going to be very good for Aaron. Being on that fact-finding mission or clearing out the last permission spell has a ton of value. The Veil of Summer is an interesting card because against the Bant Snowblade deck, there's certain cards where it's not going to be great against them.
Right. A lot of the removal, it just blanks against, and Spell Queller as well.
Exactly. Spell Queller is this interesting card that still gets to take spells. You know, it doesn't counter it. It exiles it. So that's a card that, you know, against the Urza decks, I love the Veil of Summer, but against the Bant Snowblade deck,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But a smattering of these other cards all, to me, would all have value. The Abrupt Decay, the Assassin's Trophy. I can see bringing in even the Thrashing Brontodon, the Reclamation Sage, and you just have access to all of these cards that have a little value, and you can tutor for them in different ways along the way.
Yep.
Still have your core game plan in place.
Phyrexian Revoker, another strong one for sure. Plenty of Planeswalkers to shut down. Stoneforge Mystic, lots of good targets for that one. Well, Craig, the day is getting long, reaching towards the end of the rounds here at SCG Knoxville. You would think that I would be racked with pain, sore, ready to go home. No, I am as fresh as a spring chicken, and it's mostly because
I've got your back.
KNOX has my back. Not you, Craig. You are the source of consternation and constant stress in my life. KNOX, on the other hand, never lets me down, always cradles me comfortably.
Well, what the heck is that?
Just, you can't compare to KNOX, Craig, and you know that. You know that in your heart. You're sitting in a KNOX gaming chair right now.
Well, maybe.
You know how special they are.
But it would still be nice if you lied to me once in a while.
I'm a straight shooter. I never lie, Craig. 100% straight shooting all the time. And you can save 10% at checkout when you visit KNOX.com/SCG. I think one of the joys of getting a feature match on the SCG Tour is just getting to chill in the KNOX gaming chair for a little bit.
It's so when we do the coverage on the backup matches, and we're over there in the feature match area, I'm always like, why aren't there just 2 extra KNOX chairs rolling around here for me to relax in.
Yeah, I wish I could just roll around the entire convention center.
Yeah, just take this bad boy everywhere. Just roll it right out of the convention center.
Players still shuffling up here. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at Drake Sasser. As I mentioned, quickly becoming a fixture here on the SCG Tour. Another young man, only 24 years old, from Madison, Alabama. Played 22 Opens last season. Top 8 at 4 of them and picked up a win as well. All-time 6 Opens. So kind of a new face here on the SCG Tour. Not really a long-time player, but starting to put together a nice little resume for himself. Software developer that works on mobile apps. I didn't know that. Might have to have a little chat with Drake. I got some apps floating around in my brain that I need to get out into the ether.
Oh, I'm sure. The world needs those apps.
They're desperate for them. I don't know how we made it this far without the apps that are present in my skull right now. Looks like we're taking a fresh draw here. Is Drake going to find a workable hand? Nice start here for Aaron, as you mentioned, Craig. Early acceleration, Birds of Paradise coming on down. Grabs a forest. That's interesting. With Geralf's Messenger in your deck, every time you choose to grab a forest, it's a meaningful decision.
Yeah, but there's 4 Twilight Mires in the deck.
Yep.
And so anytime I see the basic forest,
you assume Twilight Mire's coming in. Look at that.
Right there.
This is why they pay you the big bucks, Craig.
So I'm done for the day. I've made my money.
You've done your part. Head on home. Get a little rest.
Yeah, I look at Aaron's deck, and the mana is very good.
Nice little bit of utility in the mana base as well. Couple of Nurturing Peatland floating around. We've seen the Dryad Arbor come up big a couple times.
And the Colony Garden.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple nice options. So it's time for some Messenger beatdowns. Followed up by second Messenger. That's a nice little aggressive
Followed up
start.
by Messenger beatdowns.
Yeah. There's the Nurturing Peatland. So one of the Messengers is going to go on a path to exile. As we mentioned, doesn't feel like the worst case scenario for Aaron. Mana is very good for her.
Well, and if I'm on Aaron's side, I say, all right, I attacked, my opponent let me attack, and then path to exiled.
Huge gain.
Afterwards, I'm thinking, what do they have for 2 mana that I need to worry about? Are they sitting on the Disdainful Stroke in their hand?
Good question. Let's see. Let's see how Aaron wants to play this turn. More Messenger beatdowns. Just going to go ahead and jam that Yawgmoth. Yeah, going to get Disdainful Stroked, but Aaron at the ready with Veil of Summer. Big time play.
Yeah, we thought that card was a little bit narrow for the matchup.
Yeah, doing work here.
But
and look at this.
Yeah, just completely backbreaking here.
Messenger sacked to Yawgmoth. Going to go ahead and kill that Noble Hierarch. Come back, 2 more damage. Drake Sasser facing down lethal very quickly. Anything good on top, Drake? Nope. Scoop him up. Let's head to game 3. That was fast and efficient, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, Drake missed a couple of land drops. We saw him have some interaction, but Aaron was so far ahead, she was able to just deploy her cards and win the game fast. Yeah. I like it.
Well, one of the neat things about this deck is that you want to have access to games where you just overwhelm your opponent. And a lot of the decks in the format right now, they require a lot of setup time. So if your opponent stumbles, they can get back into things. Or if they mulligan, they can get back into things. I think Aaron's deck is one of the few that adequately punishes those type of stumbles while still maintaining some of that late game that has become a hallmark of the modern format.
Well, one of the big things that stands out to me is just how much advantage you accumulate when the Yawgmoth comes down. Because when Oko defines the format, you know, anytime you pass the turn, your best creature turns into a 3/3 elk. So any creature, especially a 4-cost creature, has to have a huge impact the turn that it comes down. And generally when we look at things, you're like, all right, I play my expensive creature. Now I need to go to my next turn, untap my lands, and that's the turn that I'll get all of the value out of that creature. No, Yawgmoth, instantly, you just start sacrificing tons of these stinkers and drawing tons of cards. They deal with Yawgmoth. You don't even care.
Yeah. I mean, in that fashion, Yawgmoth actually even outshines its Modern Horizons compadre, Urza. I mean, Urza requires a little bit more setup. In a lot of instances, sometimes you just get 4 mana right away and you Cryptic Command protect itself. But a lot of times, if there's already an Oko on the battlefield, it's hard to immediately leverage that Urza on the turn you play it. Yawgmoth even having a leg up there. I'm not saying it's on the same level as Urza, which is just an absolutely absurd card, but you see the upside of having a creature that can do its thing immediately. I have a feeling our friends over at Versus Live are going to be really into this Golgari Yawgmoth deck in the coming weeks. You should certainly check them out every single Tuesday and Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, right where we're watching right now, twitch.tv/Star City Games. Ross and Corey, always interested in the latest and greatest decks. No doubt they'll be watching Golgari Yawgmoth very closely. Plus, Ross is in the market for a new modern deck anyway. May as well check this one out.
They were all over there giving each other a hard time in between rounds, talking about how they qualified for the Classic tomorrow.
Nice. One of the hardest qualifications to earn in all of Magic. Drake again with the 1 mana Accelerant. Noble Hierarch. Looks like Aaron just going to lead on a land and pass. Yep, turns back to Drake. Turn 2 Oko is such a silly play.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yes, it is.
This is also something you could do in Standard, by the way, which was mind-blowing.
Yes.
Truly and completely mind-blowing.
Well, it's not just that you could do it. It's just, it turned into it's the only thing you could be doing.
Mm-hmm. And we made it more reliable once upon a time.
Yeah.
What a world we just made it through. Crazy times. Wall of Roots is the play for Aaron. Going to start accelerating a little bit. Wouldn't surprise me if that gets elked. Let's see. No, you're just going to swap. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is even better than...
Sure, I'll take a Wall of Roots.
Yeah.
It's going to do a good job protecting that Oko in
What
the future.
a stupid card
It is
Oko
now
is.
unassailable. There's nothing you can do to remove this Oko. Now, obviously, there's Abrupt Decay as an option.
Sure, but if you're Drake, you're like, hey, I made this. Like, I made the food. I stole your Wall of Roots. Oh, that's interesting.
Sounds like Drake is checking right now whether he has access to the Wall of Roots ability,
Yeah.
even though Aaron has already used it on this turn. Craig, would you like to take a guess?
Yeah, so I don't know. So it says
Well,
play this ability only once each turn.
I don't know if you can rely on what this text says.
That's what I
first
was
of
about
all.
to say, is that we don't know what the actual Oracle text is, because if it refers to the player only allowed to be being able to do it once a turn,
Right.
Drake has not done it once this turn.
As this is worded, I would expect Drake cannot use it again. All right, more recent version. Still says the same thing. Only once each turn. Seems like the answer should be no, as worded.
Well, like I said, if this refers to the player can only do it once each turn, I would think he can. If it's Wall of Roots can only do this once each turn, then he cannot.
Yeah. Well, interesting. They'll sort it out. That's what we pay our judges the big bucks for. Have all these answers ready for us at a moment's notice. Drake says, I have no idea if this works. I hope it does. Just going to slam Jace if it works.
So, you play your turn 2 Oko. Your opponent's first play is an 0/5 that produces mana.
Yep.
On your next turn, you steal their 0/5. Your Oko is still alive.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Aaron abrupt decaying the Oko on the next turn,
Right.
which is probably the correct play if she has
Still
it.
miles behind, though.
Well, she had no 1-drop on turn 1, so she will be unlikely to have a 1-drop on turn 3.
Yep.
So now this Oko has stolen the 2-drop and then time walked the 3rd turn. Like, it's just absurd.
Pretty impactful. Not a bad Planeswalker.
But at least it's expensive.
You should see how expensive my foil faller ones were.
I like how you say were. Did we get those towards the top of the market?
No. It went up after I bought it, but then it got banned in every format.
Yep.
And I haven't looked in quite some time. I can't bear to find out what they presently are selling for. I am sure it is less than I bought them for. So it sounds like Drake is going to be allowed to activate that Wall of Roots if he chooses. Wouldn't have expected that. Here is an Arkham's Astrolabe. That's going to go ahead and find the Oko back up, just in case something happens to that first one. Yeah. Why not? You always want to have a second one around, just in case.
The Oko insurance policy.
Yeah, here's Jace. And for a deck that we bemoaned as having a low APT, or actions per turn, Drake's done a lot of stuff across these first few turns.
Well, yeah, 100% he has. It helps when you can steal your opponent's mana creature and then also use it that exact same turn.
Yep, pretty good. Yeah, Wall of Roots, a bit of a vulnerability.
Look at this board. It's turn 3. Drake has 2 Planeswalkers, and not just 2 Planeswalkers, 2 of the best Planeswalkers of all time.
The 2 best Planeswalkers ever printed.
Aaron has 2 basic lands.
Yeah. Yeah. That's going to be tough to come back from.
Not basics, but you understand what I'm saying.
I feel you. Right there with you. But now she has a plant token. And this is where things start to change, Craig.
Yep.
Never underestimate the lowly plant token.
Never underestimate the power of a good plant.
Right.
Yeah.
As someone with a plant-based diet, it's my job to exalt the virtues of the power of plants. Drake is basically the living version of the unlimited power meme right now. Can just do no wrong.
Yeah, like, the problem is he has too many good things to go on.
Right.
It's hard to manage all of these resources. As a Magic player, you're trying to just squeeze the absolute maximum amount of value out of every resource.
Yep.
And when you have this much going on, it actually makes it difficult because you don't want to just throw cards onto the board.
Yeah, squeezing the last 10% out of your cards has felt like the challenge in this modern format. I think of the Urza decks in the exact same fashion. It's very easy to play the Urza decks at like 90% capacity because your cards are so powerful. But that last 10%, that's where you get your edges. You really got to squeeze that out, work hard for it.
All right, Drake, we already talked about the cards out of the sleeve.
First time in the feature match area, Drake. Come on. Step your game up.
I won't have it.
He got it right. 3/3 Elk. Certainly a very dire looking situation for Aaron Barich. We're going to try a Court of Calling here on Drake's end step. 4-1.
I believe it's for... Is it for 1?
Oh, it might be for 0.
I thought it was for 0.
Because the garden's tapped.
Exactly.
You're right. So that means only one option. Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, and if you're Drake... I don't know, Aaron does it for 1, and you kind of rack your brain, like, is there a 1-drop that I have to worry about here?
Right.
For 0, you know exactly what it is, and you just never worry about it.
Yeah, and Field of Ruin's just going to go ahead and clean that up now. That makes sense to me.
Well, this is a double win for Drake, because I think he wanted to shuffle his library from the Jace Brainstorm anyway.
Yeah. Good point. Well, now we're back to Aaron's turn. Can she start putting together a little offense here? For all that Drake has done, Aaron's life total remains high.
Yes, but I feel like this is one of those games where the one side, the Planeswalkers are accumulating so much value, even if they aren't killing the opponent.
Right.
like Drake's just sculpted his hand by brainstorming last turn, then shuffled the library. The Oko is going to continue to be a problem throughout this game. Little Ice Fang Quaddle, drawing extra cards.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the Balanced Snowblade deck, it 100% plays better as a tempo style deck than a control deck. It has some flaws as a control deck. You should play it more aggressively. But Drake's hand hasn't really presented that opportunity. That being said, there's a point where you're just so far ahead that you can play whatever role you want.
Yeah, if Drake doesn't have 2 to 3 counter spells in his hand, I'd just be shocked.
Right there with you. Wall of Roots continuing to provide mana. Here's Stoneforge Mystic. That'll up the clock quite a bit.
Oh, you want a great equipment? And you also want to shuffle your library after your Jace Brainstorm?
Sounds good. That's some classic Magic right there.
We can do that.
Bringing me back to 2011.
Well, this was a legacy deck.
Yeah. It was.
Now there's a question of, does Drake get greedy here?
I can't see doing that. I mean,
so he's so far ahead. I don't think you want to give the opponent the opportunity to blow you out.
No.
Like you tap out to try to play your equipment and equip it, and either your creature gets killed or the equipment gets blown up.
You know
and
your opponent has instant speed interaction.
Yeah, now you're tapped out on the opponent's turn.
Quaddle going to convert to an elk. It's already completed its snake life cycle. It's now moved on to the elk phase of existence, as all good creatures do.
Yeah, it sheds its wings and its scales and turns into an antlered creature.
Yep. It's just the natural path of life. We all know it. We all experience it. I'm looking forward to my elking at this point. Just bring it on. Ready to be an elk.
You started to shed your scales at this point?
It feels like it. Feels like we're getting close. End step Court of Calling for Aaron Barich. Drake's going to have a think about that. Looks like we are casting for 3 this time.
Yeah, depending on the context of Drake's hand, part of me wants to let this one resolve and path to exile whatever the creature is.
Yep.
And save the counterspell for, whatever is potentially more dangerous.
I agree with you. And here we see Geralf's Messenger. I have a late-breaking update from the feature match area. Drake Sasser could not use Wall of Roots. The floor judge made an incorrect ruling. I guess it was not appealed from, but eventually the head judge clarified. Should not have been able to use the Wall of Roots. We were too far. Not going to back it up.
Okay.
But wanted to clarify for the people at home who, like me, thought it worked the other way. I'm going to start judging.
Yeah,
I just nail it every time.
You knew the whole time.
Besides all those times I get it wrong, which are plentiful, but it's like we got a little Stoneforge action, more Okos.
Path to Exile, Disdainful Stroke, is that right?
I think so. Disdainful Stroke's going to be the card that we take. Here's Yawgmoth. We probably want to path.
I was about to say, are we letting that resolve? I feel like we should path the messenger in
Agreed.
response and then just Oko the Yawgmoth on the following turn.
That is what I would do. Let's see if Drake has other ideas.
Well, there's kind of the other side of it where like if Aaron pays a few life in this situation, she's going to be very close to dead from all of these elk.
Yeah, so it looks like Drake let the first sacrifice go ahead and happen.
Yep.
In response to the Undying trigger from the Geralf's Messenger.
And this is one of those situations where it's like, hey, you get more value if you do it this other way. And it's like, no, I'll just untap and win the game if I do this play.
Right.
Drake has tons of life total. It doesn't matter if this messenger comes back.
Right.
Aaron is tapped out at this point, so even if she pays some life through Yawgmoth, she's closer to dead and doesn't get to utilize those cards this turn. The game's just going to be over next turn.
Yeah, good job finding lethal from Drake. There's a draw step available, but Aaron is going to extend the hand, and that means Drake Sasser moving on to 8-0 here at SCG Knoxville. Aaron Barich picking up her first loss. As I mentioned, I think